would note that we're here for a very obvious reason. The door was open, and now we're dealing with that. And the door shouldn't have been open. I'm reminded. But in this instance, I'm going to be very open and honest about why I'm going to vote for this resolution. That's why. Again, recognizing the statements that the representative has made, I find to be highly problematic, extremely concerning, raising very serious questions from a foreign affairs perspective, as the ranking member has raised about statements made and how he feels about people being on certain committees.
Grab your coffee and settle in, because today we're unpacking the speech that has everyone in Washington buzzing. Congressman Chip Roy took to the floor and delivered a statement that's turned into one of the most talked about moments on Capitol Hill this week. And yes, we're talking that Chip Roy, the Texas lawmaker known for his unapologetic takes and sharp debates. So, what exactly did he say? And why is it dominating headlines? Roy laid out his reasoning for supporting the removal of Representative Ilhan Omar from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And here's the thing. This wasn't just about partisan loyalty or political maneuvering. His speech touched on something deeper, the boundaries of accountability, respect, and leadership inside Congress itself. Let's rewind for context. Roy began by standing with his Republican colleagues, framing the moment as more than a vote, as a reflection of how Congress holds itself together when controversy strikes. In his words and tone, you could sense a chamber divided, a political body wrestling with its own standards. It wasn't just a policy dispute. It was a glimpse into the growing tension shaping the modern era of American politics.
In 2013, Harry Reid did deploy the nuclear option. 2017, then certain things changed at the United States Supreme Court. So now we live in that world. It is what it is. Now here we sit. The door was open. I just went back and reread my speech on the floor because the gentleman, I hadn't done that yet. I went back and reread my speech on the floor. Not stand by every word of that speech. And in it, I referenced the fact that I had just a few months prior had been in agreement with some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle with respect to January 6th, which there's disagreements on our side of the aisle on some of that with respect to the votes at the time. And that I'd taken very strong disagreement and sought apology from our colleague on our side of the aisle about some of the remarks that were said, but felt that this was not the right path to go down. I stand by that. So here we sit. I could associate myself and do with all the remarks the gentleman from South Carolina. I have very strong disagreement with a lot of the statements that Representative Omar has made. We've covered most of them. That some people did something is the one that really sticks in my craw pretty strongly. Raises a whole lot of flags for me. I think there are significant amount of justifications to raise issues with respect to service on the Foreign Affairs Committee, but I would not go down this road. But I'm also reminded, August of 1993, Juan Gonzalez was a batter for the Texas Rangers and was plunked by Alex Fernandez from the White Sox. And just a little bit later, Robin Ventura came to the plate for the White Sox, and Nolan Ryan was on the mound. And Robin knew what was about to happen. Nolan plunked him. And then Robin Ventura charged the mound, and then Nolan Ryan beat the crud out of him on the mound. That's what happened. We all know that's what happened. Old school baseball. Nolan Ryan defined old school baseball. This is raw politics. That's what this is. When the door's opened, then there's a question. You have to decide what you're going to do. We're not going to unilaterally disarm. Just not going to do it. I'm tired of that. It just is what it is. Guys took a shot at someone on our team, about statements I disagreed with and took very much to task. But I've got strong disagreements with Representative Omar. I would prefer, if it were just starting from scratch, I would not choose this path. I'd just say whatever stuff you all want to say. We'll say whatever stuff we want to say. Our managers will pick our team. Let's go battle it out in committee. That's what I would say. I would say that's the right place to be. But at this point in time, it is my considered judgment that like Nolan Ryan, we've got to respond. And I'm just going to be blunt and honest about it. That's just my belief. I think it's important. And I hope we'll get through this. We'll kind of hip check each other. Maybe we can sit down and figure out by the end of this Congress, next Congress, whoever's in charge, we figure out how we're going to play ball going forward and set those rules. And I would say the same thing about open rules, closed rules, structured rules. And the ranking member could scoff. We've had X number of votes. We'll have continued debate about this stuff over time. There will be closed rules. There will be structured rules. There will be open rules. I'd like to have that debate. I'd like to have the considered judgment of the ranking member on that, and as I have debate on my side of the aisle. I'm just saying that we can figure out how to protect this institution and try to decide how to do things the right way.
After setting the stage with his opening remarks, Chip Roy dives into the heart of his argument, and this is where the tension in the chamber starts to thicken. He brings up one of the most polarizing topics in modern American memory, January 6th. Roy reminds his colleagues that on that day, he stood side by side with Democrats to defend the Capitol, to protect the institution, and to uphold the rule of law. In that moment, he says, party lines didn't matter, only principle did. But now, years later, he draws a sharp distinction. This time, he insists, the issue isn't about unity or defending against chaos. It's about accountability and consistency. There's a visible shift in his tone, from solidarity to frustration, as he suggests that the same standards of conduct must apply across the board, regardless of political affiliation. Then he turns his attention directly toward Representative Ilhan Omar. Roy's tone grows firmer as he recalls one of her most discussed public remarks, a comment that he says still weighs heavily on him. To him, it wasn't just an offhand phrase. It was a symbol of how words from leaders can shape perceptions and test trust. In his mind, that moment raised serious questions about judgment, and it's part of why he believes she shouldn't serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He frames it not as a matter of identity or partisanship, but as a question of credibility and respect, values that, he argues, every member of Congress must uphold. Then comes a pivot, and it's classic Chip Roy. Instead of continuing down a strictly political path, he switches gears with an unexpected story from the sports world. He takes his audience back to August 1993, to a baseball game between the Texas Rangers and the Chicago White Sox, a game that would go down in sports history. Roy describes how Juan Gonzalez of the Rangers was hit by a pitch from Alex Fernandez. Later, when Robin Ventura came up to bat, the legendary pitcher Nolan Ryan was on the mound. Everyone knew something was about to happen. Ryan hit Ventura. Ventura charged the mound, and what followed was one of the most iconic old-school brawls in Major League Baseball. Roy pauses to let the image sink in. The story isn't about sports. It's a metaphor. His point is clear. Politics can be just as raw and unforgiving as baseball. When one side takes a hit, the other side eventually hits back. That's how the game is played, he suggests, with a tone that blends realism and resignation, but he doesn't sugarcoat it either. Roy admits openly that what's happening isn't about due process or slow deliberation. It's politics. Plain and simple. It's reaction and retaliation. It's a system where, if one side draws blood, the other side responds in kind. And while he doesn't necessarily celebrate that fact, he makes it clear that ignoring it won't change reality, that he even concedes that, in a perfect world, maybe things would be different. Maybe the chamber could go back to measured debates, where ideas mattered more than outrage, and where disagreements stayed in the realm of policy instead of personality. Maybe, he says, he would have chosen not to go down this path at all. But in his words and delivery, you can sense a kind of political fatigue, a recognition that the game has already changed and that the only choice now is how to play it from there. Roy drives home his central theme, that politics has become a contact sport, one where every action demands a counteraction, every word carries weight, and every move risks escalation. He argues that this isn't just about Ilhan Omar or one committee seat. It's about how Congress itself operates in an era defined by social media outrage and relentless partisanship.